Hi everyone, my name is Avram K and you're watching Alfei Panim Parshas Chukas 2025. This week is especially dedicated to the Aliyas Neshama of Zisel Bas Avram. The Torah says, Zois Chukas HaTorah, this is the ordinance of the law, the decree of the law. Rashi comments that because the Satan and the nations of the world taunt Israel, saying, what is this mitzvah, meaning the mitzvah of Parah Aduma, and what reason is there for it? On this account, the Torah uses the term chayk about it, implying it's a decree from before Hashem. You have no right to criticize it. Rashi's comments indicate that the Satan and the nations of the world will use the mitzvah of Parah Aduma to taunt and deride Klal Yisrael. Hashem answers by saying, Zois Chukas HaTorah, this is the ordinance of the law, it is ordained, it is a decree, and we are not permitted to question it. The Sefer Ayot HaShachar notes that the Medrash as well as Rashi and Parshas Acharei Mos have an alternate text. They write Yetzer Hara in place of the term Satan. This version would seem to better fit our understanding of what's going on here. It would appear that the Satan is trying to use our lack of understanding of this mitzvah as a way of persuading Klal Yisrael to reject Torah observance. That being the case, the term Yetzer Hara is more appropriate as it refers to that spiritual force that is tasked with getting us to act improperly. But then we're left with a problem. If we actually try to understand the Yetzer Hara's question, then Hashem's answer doesn't seem to fit. The Yetzer Hara says that the mitzvah Parah Aduma doesn't make sense. After all, how could it be that the Kahanim who perform the mitzvah, which purifies the rest of Klal Yisrael from the most serious type of tumah, the most serious ritual impurity, should themselves become tameh in the process? Hashem's response is to say, Zois Chukas HaTorah, this is the ordinance of the law, a rule with no discernible reason. If the Yetzer Hara is trying to use our lack of understanding as a way of convincing us to abandon the Torah, then telling us to follow it without question because Hashem said so effectively, would seem to only amplify that point, not refute it. And the truth is, this is a very complex issue. The Ayot HaShachar notes that the questions could have gone still further. Besides not understanding the mechanism of how the Parah Aduma affects purification for most, while making the ones who perform it tameh, do we even know how tumah and tara work altogether? What is tumah, and how does a corpse convey it? Be that as it may, the Ayot HaShachar suggests that we are fundamentally misunderstanding the dynamics that are at work here. The Satan, the Yetzer Hara, has a much different and multi-layered strategy than we thought. Telling us that the mitzvah of Parah Aduma doesn't make sense is not intended to immediately drive us from the path of Torah and mitzvahs. Rather, it is to make us think. It is to goad us and prod us to look and try to find the reasons behind the mitzvah. And once we learn what there is to be learned, and once we're confident in our own understanding, only then will the Satan's grand plan go into effect. The Yetzer Hara will kick in and say, well, if that is the reason for this mitzvah, then logically it shouldn't apply to you because, and then it would give some reason. The goal was not to needle us into a momentary crisis of faith. It was ultimately meant to deconstruct our entire relationship with Hashem and the Torah. The Yetzer Hara was in effect encouraging us to say, that halacha might make sense for you, but clearly it doesn't apply to me. Like the primordial Yetzer Hara, the snake in the Gan Eden, the Satan here is trying to tempt us with knowledge. He is saying to us, look at how ridiculous this mitzvah is. It makes no sense and you can't explain it. This type of attack on our intellect impels us to defend ourselves with information. And once we have obtained that information, the Satan uses it to obfuscate the matter and further confuse and frustrate us. There is an absolute imperative in Torah Judaism to delve into the meaning of mitzvahs and to try to understand them on a deeper level. But to this specific, particular type of nuanced intellectual assault, the answer is Zois Chukas HaTorah. It's a chayk, a decree, and we shouldn't think beyond that. In that way, we can protect ourselves. Have a wonderful Shabbos. My name is Avram K, and you're watching Alfei Panim.